Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to catch up with multiple Detroit Lions, past and present, to hear a little bit more about what they're doing off the field to connect with the community. We'll hear from Amon-Ra St. about his recent youth football camp. And we'll also talk with members of the Detroit Lions Legends basketball team. This includes Rob Rubik, Herman Moore, Guttierez, Scott Conover, and Cory Schlesinger. We'll talk community and a little Lions football, too. That and more. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
Hi, this is Billy Sims, and you listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
And my first interview, Amon-Ra St. talks about interacting with kids at his youth football camp and what it means to him.
To give back. I love the kids. I've been doing a bunch of camps the past 3-4 years, but this is really my first camp in Michigan, so I'm excited. The kids are super excited. They're bringing the energy. Day 2 of the camp, so to be around the kids, to play football with them and just hang around them is always fun.
In an environment like this, you get to interact with the kids a little bit longer than you would like on a game day. So what's that like for you?
It's a lot of fun. I think kids, especially around these ages, 7 to 12, they're funny. They say funny things. They don't care. They're unfiltered, and I enjoy it. I have fun with it. We banter back and forth, but they're here to have fun. I feel like a lot of them, they look up to me, so that's an honor. I'm humbled, and I'm just glad to be, to give back and be around them.
So obviously we heard about the camps yesterday, over 600 kids at each camp, over 600 today. What does that mean to you to see personally?
It's awesome. I think it's a testament to the Lions fans in Michigan. I feel like they're the best fans in the world. The support that they show. It's unwavering. Whether we're winning or losing, they're always there for us. So, you see with the turnout that I'm having here in Michigan. So I'm just excited.
Thank you so much. Have a great time out here today. Next up, I speak with former Detroit Lions tight end Rob Rubik. He talks a little bit Detroit Lions Legends basketball with us and also shares his insights on the current football squad as well. Rob, I'm joining you here again with Detroit Lions basketball. This is something that's been going on for at least a couple of decades. You've been involved with it.
You're making me sound old. It's been more than a couple of decades. Actually, finish up my 4th decade. This is my 40th year because I did it when I played. My last, 3-4 years as a player, I started running it, and I've continued to do it. I taught for 30 years after I played in the NFL. And I've run it the entire time, and we just do alumni now, but it's easier for me because alumni are appreciative of the people. They understand why we're doing this, to help police, firemen, whatever the cause is for a fundraiser, and we enjoy each other's company. So it's really fun to have a core of guys that we travel together.
All right, awesome. You're here in Northern Michigan this weekend. I guess tell me some of the things the kids and the adults, all the spectators are going to be seeing when they come out here.
We're going to see a bunch of old men waddling down the floor who hurt, but when we see their laughing faces and cracking up at what we do, we can no longer be competitive basketball players. We be kind of caricatures of ourselves, and we try to be humorous and have fun and get a lot of young kids in the game. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. This morning we were having breakfast in Alpena after we played there last night, and a young man walks in, and I'm with Cory Schlesinger and my wife, and we're sitting there, and we both recognize the young man, his coat. He started showing his dad, it looks like they're meeting their dad for breakfast, all the autographs he had, and he was saying what a great time he had last night at the Lions game. And I told Cory and I told my wife, that makes it all worthwhile. It's a lot of fun. We've been doing this 40 years. I've probably done close to 1,000 of these over that 40 years. But every time we do one, something during the course of the game makes me laugh. I always, as a barometer, I use my wife Deb, who comes with us now, and I look at her, and if I see her laughing, I know it's funny because she has seen all this as much as she's seen this face.
Makes a lot of sense, and it's nice because it does bring it to communities for some people who can't always get all the way to the 313.
Absolutely, and the amazing thing is, we're not trying to fool anyone. I put lipstick on a pig here. I'm 60, I'm old, and when we leave these games and people say, "Oh, we're looking for you this year. Have a good season." I'm thinking, 40 years ago, yes, not now, but I think we just look great. That's all. They can't tell that we're older, but it is a lot of fun. And the people that come out today, we've never done one of these games in 40 years where people say, "Well, that was stupid. That wasn't fun. Why did we come out and do this?" So it's a good cause, and we help the police raise money for something that the budget doesn't entertain, that they can get this money. So it's a win-win.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Lions, because I know you follow them, and I know you're quite the expert. 15-2 season didn't end the way a lot of Lions fans wanted it to, or most Lions fans, but there was a lot of encouraging, great moments throughout the season. What are some things that stood out to you this year?
Well, first of all, 15 wins. I mean, 15 Monday mornings, you, me, everyone else who loves the Lions walked around with our chest pumped out pretty good, didn't we?
Yes.
And it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but I knew, because I do follow them closely, I knew this was coming, because you can't lose 6 starters off a defense side of the football in the NFL and still have success. They covered it up because they were so good offensively. But that offense is not going to perform at that high of level every single week. And as soon as they had kind of a little blip in it against Washington, and Washington was on a roll right then, our defense got exposed. If you took Philly, or you took Kansas City, and took 6 starters off those teams, you think they win the Super Bowl? No. So was it disappointing? Absolutely. Was it expected? A little bit on my part. I mean, I knew the wheels were going to fall off the cart. It's just when it was going to happen. But boy, the foundation is there. Brad Holmes has the Midas touch. Everything it turned into gold for him. And Dan Campbell seems to have great rapport and communication with his players. They want to play for him. They want to do well. People want to come to Detroit. The whole city's being rejuvenated by the Tigers, by the Pistons, by the Lions, and hopefully the Wings will hop on board here shortly.
All right, well, the draft was last weekend, and the Lions added some guys to their roster in multiple different positions. Did any players or any of the positions jump out to you or excite you about, hey, we're getting some extra guys at these other positions?
Yeah, what excited me was the offensive line. This team, when Brad Holmes came in and him and Dan Campbell met, obviously they had a plan, and their plan was to build from inside out. You get a great offensive line, which the Lions have, but it's getting to be an older offensive line. It's getting to be an offensive line that is getting beat up a little bit. That's what got you here. That's what you need to keep maintaining. So get some offensive line in the draft. They did that. They're going to have some competition at the guard position. Mahogany looked like he was great at the end of the year. Now it was a small sample size, but let's hopefully he plugs in there. And now Graham Glasgow is going to have some competition because, he was kind of hit and miss at times as an offensive guard. He was a good stopgap when they signed him and brought him back, but I don't think he's the guy you want to lean on week after week. And it's not a knock on him. He's an NFL guard, and he's had a wonderful career. But we looked up great. And also the tackle, get another tackle because Decker's getting long in the tooth, and Glasgow at center. But yeah, I like the way they attacked it. They didn't say we have to get an edge rusher because they have some on their team already. Remember, Marcus Davenport never really played last year. He was a big signing when they brought him in from Minnesota, and I think they expect big things out of him. Hutch is coming back, and Muhammad showed signs at time of being maybe that guy on the edge. So I think they're fine. And as my son taught me, we trust in Brad.
Well, you hit on the one position, I think, where a lot of Lions fans, if you've seen social media, have been, not even Lions fans, but even some of the media have been asking Brad Holmes, is that defensive end position, right?
Yeah.
Because we have Hutchinson on one side, Davenport's come back, but people are concerned with Zadarius Smith not being re-signed and Davenport's injury history. They're a little bit concerned, and you could also say this is a luxury we have. I mean, how many holes does this team have? This is going to be one of the strongest rosters there are.
Yeah, I agree. I understand the concern, but once again, we're not in the inside workings. They may have some other guys on that roster I think really are going to step forward. And remember, when training camp starts, there's going to be some money decisions made here even before training camp with some defensive ends being released. I think Brad's just going to say, you know what, we're not going to go overpay for a guy to come in when we think we're okay there. We're not as bad as we looked last year at that position, and they're going to show that this year. And the Marcus Davenport injury thing is, well, remember Matthew Stafford, how injury-prone he was? Oh, wait a minute. In his last 14 years, he hasn't missed a game. First 3 years, he struggled. He got some injuries. Sometimes it's just being unlucky. So hopefully Marcus can stay healthy because he was pretty good when he was at Minnesota. I can remember hating him. So hopefully we can have other teams hate him as well.
All right, well, let's talk about your old position, tight end. Sam Laporta's entering his 3rd year. What are expectations? What are reasonable expectations based on what he's done these first 2 years?
Well, numbers-wise, he kind of had a down year, but he was nicked a little bit and missed a little bit of time due to injury. But he's solid, and he's improving as a blocker every week. As a pass catcher, we know he's solid. He gets the ball, he can get open, he can get vertical a little bit. He's a tight end that everyone wishes they had in the NFL. And there's about another half dozen like him out there, but he's a special player. And when you have Amon-Ra outside, you have Gibbs in the backfield, and you have J-Mo who can stretch the field, it opens up a lot of space, and we saw Ben Johnson take advantage of that. And I think you'll see the new OC as well take advantage of that this year. When you have a lot of toys at that level, all those coaches are pretty good. And when you give them a bunch of things to work with, they become a little bit better.
Well, you said it. There's a lot of great players coming back, but we do have some new coordinators. How does that affect things? Is it that returning of familiar players make the new coordinators' jobs easier?
Well, we got to remember the OC they brought in from Denver, right?
Yep.
Morton?
John Morton.
Yeah, he was in New Orleans with Dan. So he understands what they do already. I don't think you're going to see a huge drop-off. We like Ben's creativity, but I'm not going to lie. And my wife, once again, was here with me, and she can vouch for me. There were times I complained a little bit. I thought he got a little bit too funky, too creative. With times that, we can pound the ball here a little bit. Or maybe don't pound the ball every first down. Come out and do some other things. No one's perfect. As a fan, as a former player, and someone I think is fairly knowledgeable of the game, I liked Ben Johnson. I thought we were great. They kept it as long as they could. But Dan Campbell's not stupid. He knew Ben was going to leave. He probably thought he was going to leave 2 years ago, and then he thought he was going to leave before last year. Well, he finally did leave. He's been prepping someone in the wings, as we know, and he went and got someone who's been in this type of system with Morton. And as far as the DC with Aaron Glenn, same type of thing. They've been grooming people.
All right, what do you think it's going to take for the Lions to get back to the NFC Championship game to get another shot at going to the Super Bowl?
Stay healthy. I still think their roster, I know Green Bay's upgraded. I think the Bears are really upgrading. And the Vikings surprised us last year. I thought they were going to finish fourth in division. It's the best division of football. But they're still the most talented team in that division. And we haven't been able to say that about Detroit many times over the past 40 years, where they have the best players. And I think they have the best coach in Dan Campbell and maybe the best GM. So what it takes, stay healthy. You can't get beat up. I give this analogy all the time. In '85, with the greatest football team in the history of the NFL was the Chicago Bears. I think the defense is by far the best defense. They won the Super Bowl. That year, I think they had starters miss a total of 16 games of their entire 22 starters. We had Lions, we had like 108. You got to stay healthy because your starters are starters. You know why? Because they're better than your backups. That's why they're called the starters.
Cory Schlesinger joins us next. The former Detroit Lions fullback and I discuss his community connection, we revisit his NFL draft experience, and we talk a little Detroit Lions football as well. Cory, good to see you again. We're here at Detroit Lions Legends Basketball. You guys have been making your way around the state. What are you guys doing here, and what brings you out?
Well, we're here for one thing. We're here to raise money, but we're also here to meet our fans that don't get a chance to see us a lot of times. We get an opportunity to see them up close. They get a chance to see us up close because, with the helmets on and stuff like that, they don't get a chance to see us. We play basketball, but we're going to call that not really playing basketball, but we're here to really see the fans, raise money, and have a lot of fun.
All right, so kind of more like entertainment basketball.
Actually, that's what it is. It's all entertainment. That's what we do. NFL football is also entertainment. This is also entertainment.
Awesome. I want to take you back to your draft day a moment, if you will. 6th-round pick by the Detroit Lions out of Nebraska. Can you tell me a little bit about what your draft experience was like?
Well, this is back when it was on Saturday and Sunday. I was sitting in my apartment, and the time the 3rd round got done, I think they cut it off the network, so I didn't get a chance to see myself get called on TV. But it was pretty interesting because Saturday my phone call rang on the 3rd round, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And it happened to be my brother, and I said, you can't be calling me today. So this is before, caller ID and all that stuff. So Sunday comes around, and Carolina Panthers called me up and said, hey, we're going to draft you later on too. And, so I'm like, all right, that sounds great to me. And then the phone rang again, and it was the Lions and said, hey, did you talk to him? I said, yeah, I talked to Carolina Panthers, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I think they're ahead of us, so we're just going to hold off, and we'll wait to see what they do. And then they called me back and said, hey, well, you're a Detroit Lion now. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So I'm like, what's the next step here? And so they're like, all right, well, we'll contact you. We're going to send you out to Michigan, and we'll have our first mini camp and stuff like that. So it was a very interesting time. They said, you're not going to run the ball. You're not going to catch the ball. You're here to block for number 20. So I gave it a whirl anyway, tried anyway, see what happened with that one. So, but yeah, it was very excited to come to Michigan to get a chance to play for the Lions.
Awesome, and I would say you did quite well. A lot of fans remember you fondly. What was that transition like? I mean, you were at a big-time college program, but you still going from college level to the NFL. What was that like for you?
Well, I would say it was good for me because, I mean, I played with a lot of number one. I mean, I was practicing with number one draft picks every day, so it's kind of like we were pretty good. We were national champions back in '94, so we had a pretty good team, and we had a pretty tough team. So coming to the NFL, it was a transition in the fact that everyone's good, and that's the key part is that everyone's good, and everybody's like, oh, well, this player is not very good. I'm like, no, he's still good. Even if he might be the worst NFL player, but he is still good. And that was a different transition. I think the biggest thing for me was it's a long season. And that was the one thing that was like, wow, when is this season going to end? Plus, we made it to the playoffs my rookie year, too, so that was extra games. So, imagine going to the Super Bowl, having those extra games also. It's a heck of a run, plus the preseason games. I would say it was fun just walking in the locker room and seeing the older veteran guys and just, wow, my goodness, these guys are like men and they have families and they have, they're just men. I was like, wow, this is pretty interesting. But it was a lot of fun. I had an opportunity to play with some of the best players. I got a chance to play against the best players also.
All right. Well, I got to interview one of your former teammates not too long ago, Mike McMahon. Okay. And you guys both had something in common. You played in the Silverdome and in Ford Field. And he told me an interesting story about how you guys needed to get permission to practice in the Silverdome. And he said there was a time you guys went to practice without permission and you kind of got kicked out.
Well, Pontiac owned it. It wasn't the Lions. So Pontiac owned it, and we just basically leased it or something like that. And there was a time where they knew that we were going to be leaving, I believe. They stopped paying, or I don't know what happened with the lease or something like that. But they said you can't practice inside, and they actually turned air on underneath the turf to try to make it wavy. They turned the music on really loud in there too. And luckily for me, it was metal music, so I enjoyed it. So it wasn't bothersome to me. It was like crowd noise for me. But, yeah, it was interesting times back then. And comparing that to today's locker room and NFL experience, it is unbelievable. I always compare it to, like, the movie Major League, that baseball movie, where, they get in these old stainless steel hot tubs and they get in those things, and compared to what they have now, I mean, they have the locker rooms at the Lions. I mean, even colleges now got these reclining chairs and just these vents coming through, and it's just unbelievable how it has transitioned over the time. But that's what we had, that's what we knew. Didn't know any different, but just the opportunity to get a chance to play with these guys was probably way more memorable than the fancy locker room and stuff like that, because it was just an opportunity that doesn't happen. I always call it was a fantasy job, because there's no other job like this in the world. So it was a lot of fun.
That makes sense. And even though the stadiums don't necessarily make the experience, is it nice that you did get to play in Ford Field? This way, when you go back, you're going back to a stadium that you played in?
Well, I was coming up to here, Traverse City, I drove by the Silverdome, and I was like, wow, that's gone. It's those memories are in my head, but that place is gone now. And it was a good place. It was a fun place. I thought it was loud, and then I went to Ford Field for that last playoff game, and they really rocked that place. I think it was loud there. And Ford Field, they just did an outstanding job there. And a lot of players that went to Ford Field and played there said that this is a really good stadium. So they did a great job out there, and it's always fun to come back to Ford Field.
Awesome. Well, you've been around the Lions a lot. I've seen you at a number of events. Has it been fun interacting with the fans and seeing that much more momentum with Detroit sports?
It's exciting right now because, my goodness, I mean, the Pistons did well, and then they just lost recently, but it was exciting for them. Tiger baseball is going well right now. I mean, everything's really happening right now, and when the Lions were doing well. I mean, the whole state just lit up. And that's what's exciting. You don't understand how important it is for these teams to not only the Lions but the Tigers and the Pistons, stuff like that. When they're doing well, it livens the whole state up, and that's what we want. And that's what we enjoy. That's why we come out here and get to meet our fans up close, because what the sacrifices that they went through all of our struggles and stuff like that. Now they're still fans of our sport, so that's why we like to do these things.
Awesome. Any expectations or excitement or things you're looking forward to for the 2025 season for the Lions?
It's just it's one of those things. We keep losing players. We bring in players in. We're losing coaches, bringing coaches in. It's just like hopefully everything meshes together well. And I feel like we have a staff that they understand. We have good players still. That's the main thing. Is we have excellent players. And we kept a lot of them, and so I'm pretty excited. I like Coach. He's doing a great job. Dan, I got a chance to play with him back in the day, and players really, that's their leader, and they really enjoy him, and they work well for him too. So that's very exciting to see.
Awesome, Cory. Thank you so much for taking the time.
All right, you're welcome.
The next two interviews were on the shorter side due to timing, but we get to hear from two former offensive linemen, Brock Guttierez and Scott Conover. We're going to talk Lions legends basketball and get their insights on a position they both know well, the O-line. We'll talk about that and, of course, some Detroit Lions football. Scott, nice to meet you. I'm here with you at Detroit Lions Legends. Tell me a little bit about the basketball thing and what you guys are doing.
Oh, man, this is a great event for us. We go around the state of Michigan to help raise some money, get the community, that don't get down to see us play, get down to Detroit. So that's all we do. We just want to get back and help out the community.
Awesome. I see you get involved quite a bit with the crowd, too. It's not just on the court. You guys go in and get everybody involved.
Yeah, I appreciate these people when they come out. Like I said, we're here to help raise money, and whatever we can do to make a fun event, that's what we're going to do.
Awesome. Let me talk a little bit about Detroit Lions. And you were drafted by the Lions in the 5th round back in '91 out of Purdue. Yeah. What was your draft experience like?
Oh man, hey, I didn't think I was coming to Detroit. My last year at Purdue, I switched over to offensive line, so my chance of making to the NFL wasn't great. But I got lucky. I got the opportunity. But I worked out for like 20 different teams. It wasn't Detroit. Detroit wasn't on my map. So when I got the call on draft day, I was happy. I was like, hey man, I get to go work, play in the Silverdome and block for Barry Sanders.
That's pretty incredible, for sure. What was that transition like? You were only playing the offensive line briefly in college, then you had to do it at the NFL level.
Yeah, so I was still learning when I got in. I remember my first day of practice, and my coach was like, "Hey, you're gonna have to get out of your stance." So I was like, "I'm still learning offensive line." So, luckily I got on a veteran offensive line, Lomas Brown, Kevin Glover. They kind of took me in and helped me find my way.
Awesome. Any favorite stories or memories you have from those playing days in the early 90s when they were pretty successful?
Yeah, we had some great teams. We got a close couple of times. My year in '91, my rookie year, we made it to the NFC Championship game. That was close. And, it was some great time. But, I still think about, what we should have done. And, it's unfortunate. But now the team is, coming around now, and we're hoping that they can do it.
Yeah, they added a couple offensive linemen in the draft this year. Are you excited about extra offensive linemen on this team?
Oh, yeah. Those picks, they aren't sexy. When you make them, you don't know about them, but it's very, very needed. You need to, and that's going to be the backbone and foundation of our team.
Last thing, Scott, anything I haven't asked you that you want to let fans know about or talk about with the Lions?
Yeah, we're looking forward to this season. Hopefully we could take the next step, get another a title for the NFC North, and then take it all the way to the Super Bowl this year. I think we got the nucleus, and we just gotta hope this is our year.
Brock, nice to see you again. We're here at Detroit Lions basketball. Tell me a little bit about this.
Oh, it's a great way to get back in the community and try and help give back and provide for fire departments and police departments and just it's a lot of fun for us too, because we just get to get out and been playing these games for a long time. Rob has, and I've been able to do it as well for about 20 years. I think this is my 20th year doing it, so it's a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, you know, and that's impressive.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started when I was with the Lions in '05 and '06. I started playing it then, and it's kind of morphed into this now with some older guys, which has been great.
Awesome. Has it been fun to be able to connect with fans and stay in touch with them, especially as the Lions team has gotten better in recent years?
Well, yeah, it certainly helps. The crowds are a little bigger, right, because they have done a better job putting a winning team on the field, and that's been exciting as well. So, you know, just to see, you know, it's really for the kids, and there's a ton of kids that are here and enjoying it, and they don't know how old we are and all that, which that's fine. It's great, right? But, you know, there's a lot of, you know, their parents, and they remember these guys that we're playing with here tonight and are here today, and it is certainly great to get out in the community and just connect with some folks.
All right, now being from Charlotte and playing at CMU,
Yes, sir.
growing up, you were able to have a good run in the NFL, but it didn't start with the Detroit Lions. How sweet was it to be able to finish your career with the Detroit Lions?
You know, that is, I feel like it was better to end here than to start here, just with all the distractions that come with, you know, getting a chance to play in the NFL. You know, I started out in Cincinnati for 7 years and just kind of made a career before I came home, you know, and then going to San Francisco for a while, and then, you know, just coming back home, growing up a Lions fan. It really was kind of a great way to cap a career, and also be able to go home, you know, on my off days on Tuesdays, just get home was only 2 hours away, and just having a lot of friends, you know, that I went to college with, that I grew up with, that were in the area. Just it was a fantastic way to kind of end a career.
Awesome. And you talked about being able to, you know, focus in Cincinnati when you first got there. What was that transition like going from the college level to the NFL?
You know, I think you don't really realize it when it's happening, right? You've been playing football for so long. It's just the next step, and you're kind of in it. But to sit back, like after the final cuts are made and you're kind of playing it in a few games your rookie year, just to sit there in the locker room, that really was very surreal for me. And just, you know, just the speed of the game and all of those things that go along with it, and being able to handle the mental aspect of it. It's definitely, it's much more intense. It's obviously harder because we all know that, but it was quite the deal. There's no doubt about it.
All right. Well, another thing I wanted to ask you is the NFL draft just happened this weekend, or this last weekend. They drafted 2 offensive linemen, something you know a little bit about that position. Do you get excited when you see that position or that group get drafted?
I get excited when guys from Central Michigan get drafted, right? You know, I mean, any general manager, anybody that watches football, and I'm a little biased, but will tell you that the games are won and lost in the trenches, right? And those teams that have good, solid offensive lines that gel together usually seem to it's just a good nucleus. It forms a nucleus of good, successful teams. So, yes, I do get excited. I love to watch offensive line play. I still, you know, broadcast off football games for Central Michigan, so I get to, you know, pay a lot of attention, and that's where it all starts. I talk about that a lot every weekend during the football season, so absolutely I get excited about seeing that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Well, once again, I mean, that adds more youth to the offensive line, continues to build what has been a strength for the Lions. What are you looking forward to out of the Lions 2025 squad?
You know, it's interesting after the 2023 season when Coach Campbell said after they lost, you know, to get knocked out of the playoffs, and they made that deep run, and he made that comment about, you know, it's hard to get back here, and it is, and they were so successful last year, and they had so, you know, they were so dominant in the regular season, and you get to the playoffs, and it's just, you just can't take anything for granted. So certainly, you know, like you said, the offensive line is a strength of this Lions football team, and they've got enough skill pieces around them. Certainly losing a couple of coordinators hurts, but I mean, the culture has changed in Detroit, and Coach Campbell's done a great job. He's doing a heck of a job as the head coach, and I think with him at the helm, I mean, I would expect them to be deep in the playoffs every year for years to come.
Awesome. Any final thoughts, any last things you'd like to say before we head out?
Are you going to be filming any of this game? I want you to watch me drain in threes with impunity, okay? I don't know if I've made one all year, but we're going to try today, that's for sure.
I'm going to look for some highlights to put in with
You're
this.
going to get lots of highlights, guaranteed.
Now, unfortunately, Brock did not hit any three-pointers for me to show you highlights of, but he did set a nice screen, and that allowed Herman Moore, number 84, to get open and hit a three-pointer himself. That brings us to the final interview. Herman Moore talks about his post-NFL life, and believe it or not, folks, it might actually be busier than his NFL playing days. We discuss that, connecting with the community, and of course, we talk all things Detroit Lions. Herman, you've been participating with Detroit Lions Legends basketball for quite a while now. You guys have been all over the state already this year, and you're not done with the tour yet. Tell me a little bit about that and what you guys get out of it.
Well, we get a lot out of it because we're supporting the people that are supporting the communities. There are people that consider like the football players and athletes and all those heroes and all these things, but it's truly the people that are in our community every day. They don't take breaks, and they're out there to make sure that we're protected. Our educators do a tremendous job, and sometimes they're underappreciated and unknown as well. So coming out to our communities mean a lot because even as a former player, you never get to see the people that are in the stands. You hear their voices cheering, but you never get to see them up close and personal, and that's what's meant a lot for me for the last 30 years.
All right, well, you were busy, as I'm sure every NFL player is, but it seems like your life might be even busier since your playing days. I think you've self-described yourself as a serial entrepreneur. Can you tell fans just some of the things you've been up to?
Oh, yeah, well, since I retired in 2002, I used to own a lot of franchises. Cinnabon is the franchise I started with. I owned all the ones in Michigan. I owned all the Cinnabons in Florida at one point. And then I got out of that and got into manufacturing. So we do a lot of liquid manufacturing, which is your personal care products. We're one of the largest in the state that does that. We do print on demand. So that's been fun because we do a lot of spirit wear for schools, for organizations that want it, and it's no cost to them to set up their shops through us. I've been involved with my Tackle Life Foundation, which is all philanthropic, going out for getting kids involved and young adults involved in entrepreneurship, but also talking to them about the importance of education, of the tools that are available and understanding how money works and how you can create opportunities for yourself. And then finally, branding and marketing, which is a big part of what we do in life. What is your brand? I consider myself, what is my brand and what is the fabric of my brand? And those are all the components that go into business, ironically. And they've been a part of my career. So now I've turned those into not just a passion, but what I do now between now and the end of my legacy.
Awesome. I know that you've partnered with Lomas Brown on the Herman Lowe merchandise. You've done a lot of things like that. And you've also given lots of advice and support to a lot of local entrepreneurs as well.
It's important. There's our economy and the opportunity. Not everyone, and it's not that you have to bypass going on to education at a higher level at colleges and universities, but some that want to just get certification or get other jump starts on their career. Entrepreneurship is a great way to do that, and it's one that I grew up on. My mother was very entrepreneurial, and even some of my boys are that way. So it's we're that type of a family, but I know it's a very vital thing. It's very empowering for individuals to basically champion their own way. But along the way, we also work with small to medium businesses and those that are looking to scale.
All right. Well, turning back to the Lions, you got to interact with a lot of fans here that you can't always see in the stands when you're playing. But the Lions today came off a 15-2 season. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but there were a lot of amazing moments. What are some things that stuck out to you or stick with you from this past season?
When I look back at the 2024 season and then the 2025 postseason, this was just a team that was very resilient. And we talk about injuries all the time that are going to occur. You can't skirt that on a professional level or any sports, especially physical sports. And the Lions had their fair share, but yet they stayed together. Coach Campbell and all of his coaches and the scouts did a good job of keeping the locker room together, but also going and finding players that can come in from other places to come in and play a vital role in this team's success. And I don't think many people expected them to go 15-2, and so that's nothing to kind of cut your eye to. And I expect these guys to come back. It's going to be a tougher season. They won't catch anybody off guard, and teams will prepare for them. But I think this team will be up for the challenge.
All right, well, they're bringing a lot of familiar faces back. A couple of things that are going to be new, though, are offensive and defensive coordinators. Now, you've gone through different coordinators in your playing days. How can that affect the team?
The fact that the Lions are going to lose their coordinators, and now they're going to be with Ben Johnson staying inside of the division, that's going to be a little bit tougher. That's always a little challenge because you're going to face him twice a year, but he also is going to know a lot about your organization and your player personnel. With Aaron Glenn being gone, I think replacing those two, they were pivotal. They were vital. Over the years, they had built a system that started to really take root. And when that happens and you have to start over, you're starting over with the mindset. You're starting over with playbooks. You're starting over with trying to also unravel all the different things that were there before. And you have to unlearn some of the system that the players had before, even though there may be some similarities in systems. So it's a little nuances like that can trip you up a little bit, but hopefully that won't happen with this team.
All right. Well, they are bringing in some new players, one of which is a wide receiver, Isaac Taslaw out of Arkansas, a Michigan native. And I looked at his stats. His height and weight are similar to yours. And the Lions, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have been looking for an X-receiver. It seems like since they got to Detroit. Could this potentially be that outside youthful piece they've been looking for?
It can be. It's some teams have gone back into having players who play one position, and meaning that if you're an X receiver or a Z receiver or a slot receiver, they typically leave you there. When I played during the time, myself and Calvin and these other guys, they started to move us around a little bit more and understanding that we didn't need to just be on the outside when you're a bigger receiver. But it creates matchup issues. It spreads the defense so they can't, challenge you a little bit tighter on the inside when you play slot. But they need a big player. We saw when Tim Patrick and those guys were able to get matched up sometimes, they can make a difference. So I think they're good at the offensive side of the ball, continue to add to that arsenal of players. Only makes them stronger because they're going to need it. This is a league where you got to have a big physical receiver as part of your system in order to be competitive.
And then, I mean, this from experience, the red zone threat, right? Having that height in the end zone, that's got to be one of the biggest keys to something like that.
It is, but it also you have to match talent with talent. You have to match size with size. I think when I came into the league at a 6'4", 6'5", and you were still trying to guard me with 5'11", 6-foot cornerbacks, it was still a challenge then. But then I was able to outmaneuver the bigger guys who were 6'2", 6'3", because their body movement wasn't the same and it was fluid. So it creates matchup issues, the same as when you get a very athletic tight end who goes against a linebacker. So you create matchup issues. That's what the NFL and the higher level sports are all about.
All right, well, talking about the draft, I spoke with you last time about what your draft experience was like, and you went number 10 overall to the Lions, and you didn't travel to New York for the draft, and it kind of sets it up with, we heard what happened with Shedeur Sanders this year with prank phone calls, and there have been some other ones that have happened as well, it sounds like. You didn't have a prank phone call, but you had a really interesting phone call you've recently shared about on social media. Would you kind of talk about what it was like leading up to the draft and that experience?
My experience for the draft, I ended up having my pro day at the University of Virginia. I invited all the teams out. I think 25 or 26 teams came out to watch me work out and throw routes and have me run routes and do all those things. So when I got to the draft, I passed on a lot of the skill drills, but I ended up doing basically all the mental tests, the height, weight, the bench press. And then ultimately draft day just waited. I had my agent who was constantly in conversations with a lot of the teams because it was a year where a lot of receivers were going to be taken in the first round. And just letting people know just all the teams that were kind of in the mix for me. If I didn't go with Denver, who ended up passing on me, even though they called me and I thought I was going to be taken with the number 4th pick. Detroit picked me, but if Detroit didn't pick me, I was going to Dallas. If I didn't go to Dallas, I was going to go to Pittsburgh. If I didn't go to Pittsburgh, I would end up in Miami. And at that time, you had Marino at Miami. You had, I forget the quarterback. I don't think Neil O'Donnell, but whoever it was that was there. And then you had Troy Aikman, who was with the Cowboys. And then you had John Elway, who was there with the Broncos. So that's how it worked out. But I came here with the four carousel of quarterbacks, and it worked out because I wouldn't trade those guys. Eric Kramer was awesome, Pete, Ware, and Chuck Long.
Awesome. 2025 season is going to be here before we know it. What are you looking forward to most out of the Lions?
I'm looking forward to seeing them just not necessarily have to pick up where they left off as much as get ready to make the adjustments, make those quickly, and then get really prepared and get the system under their belt. It's not going to be about trying to compete with what you did last year. You can still end up with a lower record than you had last year and have greater success. So I wouldn't put it all about trying to match records from last year as much as you want to match the energy and the play, the commitment to winning from the players, from the coaches, from the organization. And if you can bring those chemistry and those things back, you keep culture in order, which is the biggest piece, more so than the talent.
All right, maybe that's the answer to this question is, after the Lions lost in the NFC Championship game to the 49ers, Dan Campbell said it's going to be even harder to get back. It didn't happen this past year. What might it take for them to have a chance of getting to that level again?
This year's it's that proverbial one game at a time. You can't look too far ahead. They're not going to be able to overlook a lot of the opponents they have this year. It's going to be probably one of the top 2 or 3 toughest schedules in the NFL. So it won't be a given. They're going to have to earn every game. And in doing so, they got to stay healthy. They got to play together. And to match, again, the same success where you have home field advantage, you have a bye, and then the Super Bowl has to go through Detroit, just to even get back into that scenario is going to count against them quite a bit. Because other teams want the same thing. So the teams just got to take it one game at a time, one play at a time, one person at a time.
All right. Not the Same Old Lions podcast is just one of many ways Lions fans can get information, learn about the team. Another one is Lions Nation Unite. That's something that you personally are involved in, you've created. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I've been a big fan of the fans as a player. They've been extremely kind and respectful to me, and just the people around me all my career here. That's why I've never left Michigan when I came here. I've been here now longer than anywhere I've ever lived, and I always wanted to give something back to the fans that was tangible. So creating a platform and a website that is created specifically for them, and really trying to grow that and grow the information that comes directly from myself or from others that are within the organization or have really played the game is important. It's not to say that there's not other viable resources out there for information, but we try and team up with those, just like with you, that have a passion for the game and a passion for the Lions. And then how do we go out and collectively work together to give something to the fans? And so I'm appreciative of all that everyone's doing and contributing to this, all our content creators, all the other people who have their own proprietary podcast or their platforms, and how do we come together to celebrate our fans?
Awesome. That's great. And any final things you want to share with the fans or talk about the Lions before I let you go?
Other than just stay positive. This is a really good team that they put together. The players are very, very much wanting to be champions and winners. And I think if we continue to support them as alumni, as a fan base, and as a community of supporters, they'll continue to give the efforts that we've seen, and that's a winning way.
Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this episode with interviews from a variety of Detroit Lions players, past and present, giving you a little more insights on some of the things they do off the field in addition to on the field. Thank you for tuning in. Please tell your friends and family about this show. Remember, you can find more content at notthesameoldlions.com. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.